I was about to turn 60, and that whole year leading up to 60, which also happened to me, and
Hmm.
that is a key to longevity, that we really have a fulfilling purpose that gets us excited every day. And I wasn't feeling that at that time.
My guest today is Allison McCune Davis, a traditional naturopath, mom of 5, and author of the book 60 is a Good Start. And we're talking about reimagining life after 60 and embracing aging as a time of opportunity, vitality, and purpose. Welcome to Happy and Healthy with Amy, the brain health podcast for women in midlife who want to not just survive, but actually thrive during the menopause transition and beyond. I'm Amy Lang, master health coach, best-selling author, and daughter of Alzheimer's, and I'm here to help you make this next chapter of your life the best one yet. I am so glad, Allison, that I've got you on the podcast today. I've been wanting to get you on this now for a while. And with my 60th birthday coming up, I think this is like the perfect timing.
Perfect. I love it.
So I think just for folks who didn't skip the intro, right? Allison actually wrote the book called 60 is a Good Start. And maybe just to kick us off in this episode, can you share with folks what inspired you to write 60 is a Good Start?
Sure. Well, it was when I turned 60, which was I'll be 65 this year. So that was a few years ago. We didn't publish it until this year, but yeah, I was about to turn 60, and that whole year leading up to 60, which also happened to me. I don't know if this is common, but as I was approaching 40 and 50, I was just, I don't know, just asking those questions, those big questions we ask in life, am I doing what I should be doing? Am I like living my purpose? Am I right? Am I on the right track? At 40 and 50, I was 40, I was pregnant with my second, 50, adopting our fifth. And so, but at 60, everything was different because like my third child was just leaving the nest. I still have 2 younger, but very independent, kind of living their own life. Like my job, my role had drastically changed. And I started to have a little more white space, in my mind, and just ability to think about what am I doing right now? And I'd been teaching women about natural health online or in person for the previous decade, and I still love that. Like it's my favorite subject, to talk about all that. But also fascinated in longevity, and all those stories, how these people get to be, 100 in their 90s and they're doing great, right? Mentally, physically, everything. Like how'd that happen, So
Yeah.
that was always very fascinating to me. But I I knew that things were shifting, and I was really looking for a change. Maybe I didn't know what kind of change it was going to be, but I knew it was going to be just something different, maybe just slightly different, to take me into the next like year, 5 years, or 10 years, really, that next decade. And, something that was going to make me just wake up in the morning and be excited and, oh, I'm going to sink my teeth into this thing. Like a new purpose is what I was talking about, right? And that is a key to longevity, that we really have a fulfilling purpose that gets us excited every day. And I wasn't feeling that at that time. So I thought, I think I'm going to have to just say yes to a few things that sort of pop up, start being real observant of what's popping up in my life, and maybe do a few things that aren't the thing, but they're going to lead me to the thing. You get to this point in life and you realize, certain steps lead you to big things, changes and that kind of thing. So it's about 7 months of that I did. I did a big challenge. It was like 75 days mental toughness, physical challenge, 75 hard, if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was really huge. That was it was hard and it was 75 days long. You couldn't miss a day or you had to start over. But, and then I did a mastermind with some women, all ages, entrepreneur types. And then I just woke up one morning and actually was doing a meditation, kind of deep breathing session that I really like. And it just hit me. I was just like, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to write a book,
Yeah.
and so I just, and, of course, my brain, like we all have that battle with the brain. My brain was like, no, you're not. What are you talking about? It's all been said before. You're not that great a writer anyway, and I'm just like, no, I think I'm going to write a book.
Okay.
So that sort of just started the process that ended up being a 3-year process. But it was really fun and I could really sink my teeth into it. And, I love the research part. And so now I'm doing this part, and this has been fun too, to get to talk to people like you about, my favorite subjects. What's
Yeah.
better?
Yeah. So you were talking about your kids, right? Where maybe let's back up just a
Okay,
little bit
sure.
because I think it would be helpful for folks to hear a little bit about your story. Like
Okay.
you you said you kind of got started late in life as far as having kids. You want to
Yes, yes. I actually went to school for TV and film production and ended up being a TV producer in Texas and then in LA for 8 years after being in Texas for 8 years. Then at that point, I was 35 and I met my husband, who was living in DC, but we both were from the same hometown in Oklahoma. And we met when we were both visiting our parents who were friends. One thing led to another, and we decided to move back here, get married, and start a family. It's a good
mm,
place to have a family, small
mhm.
town. And, so, yes, I had my first at 37, and probably at age 30 when I was out in LA, I got my first taste of natural health when a friend suggested I go to their TCM doctor, traditional Chinese
Yeah.
medicine. I'd never heard of that. My father was a surgeon, so I was, pretty medical background. Like most of the country, though. And so that guy solved a real big issue for me. And that kind of was my first like foray into natural health. And then I got back here. I had our first 3 kids at 37, 40, and 42. So, kind of later.
Yeah.
Had ended up having a C-section with the first one and then 2 home births because my mind just totally did a 180 on all of that subject. But after I had these 3 kids, I first started seeing a naturopath because my body, my health just went down. Which, having 3 kids takes it out of you. But I was like getting sick every 6 weeks. Like for a week, I'd be in bed sick. And I've got these 3 little kids. I'm like, I got to be able to take care of these kids. So
Yeah.
I was really looking into the root causes of what was going on, doing all the tests, blood, neurohormones, sex hormones, hair follicle for toxic metals, poop test, for gut bacteria and how all that is. And figured out that okay, there were some issues, let's solve them with herbs naturally, diet. And through my 40s, I'd say was a real healing time and a real focus on my specific health situation and getting better, and I did. And our 85% of our immune system is in our gut, so that part's really important to get right. And then when I hit 50, I was, I adopting our 5th child at that point from Ethiopia, and I was homeschooling our kids also. And so, um, I thought I need an outlet. I need to be with adult women. And so I started teaching natural health classes to groups of women in town locally and online also, and did that for that whole decade really. And it was just my favorite subject. I was just did lots of research and got my traditional naturopath certification during that time. And so yeah, that was kind of my story up to then turn 60 and decided to write a book.
So I'm kind of curious. My sister is a family practice doc.
Okay.
So that, getting trained in allopathic Western
Yep.
medicine,
Yep.
I'm kind of curious, how did your dad react to
Yeah.
your path? Yeah.
Well, he he, he was always, like, not quite sure about that. He was a surgeon,
Mhm.
so, little different, like, focused on that, thoracic surgeon, so basically neck to legs, but my mother-in-law was an OBGYN, and, when we had that 2nd child and we did a home birth, we just couldn't tell them. W
Mm.
They thought we were gonna have a regular birth like the first time around, and so after that child was born, then we told them, and they were just my dad, he was fine. My mother-in-law, I mean, she was an OBGYN, so she was not thrilled, but finally, she was okay with it. And then the one after that, they were just like, "Oh, whatever," they're gonna let's do what we're gonna do. But I will say, my father died in 2005 of colon cancer, which
Mm, I'm
is one
sorry.
of the main things he dealt with his patients. And so it was kinda crazy. It was stage 4 inoperable. He was sick for 2 years, but during that time that he was sick, I remember, he had some prostate issues, and I brought over some oat straw tea because it's wonderful diuretic. It'll just make you pee. So, um, he loved it, and so that was like his only little kinda opening into herbal medicine that really worked for him, and he was thrilled, and he wanted me to bring it to him every day. So, he's trained. He, like every other medical doctor out there, they are trained well, like you said, allopathic medicine, and they're not trained in exercise. They're not trained in nutrition. Almost most of them don't get any training in that at all. I was just listening to Dr. Peter Attia.
Mhm.
You know who he is, and I just literally it was this morning listening to him talk about how he got zero training in. This is from UCLA Medical School. Zero training in exercise, zero training in nutrition. Maybe some of them are adding a little bit of that now, but they're not trained in it.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
really have to look for that kind of help if that's the kind. But of course, they're great for life-saving surgeries or, that kind of thing, but just your general health, just like chronic disease type stuff, no, I wouldn't go that route for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think allopathic medicine, when you look at the continuum from disease to health, like,
Mhm.
so I think of healthy as not just the absence of disease. If that's like the 0 point,
Right.
right? That being really truly healthy and
Yeah.
well, if
Yeah.
if it were on like the on a scale of 0 to 100, whereas when you're really, really sick, you're at the negative
Yeah,
100.
for
I
sure.
think our healthcare system is designed much more about the 0 to the minus
Oh,
100.
for sure. It's a sick
Yeah.
care system. It's
Yeah.
not, I wouldn't call it a healthcare system. I call
Yeah.
it sick care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and when you find a naturopath doctor or functional medicine doctor, they also call them integrative medical doctor. Those are kind of the terms now. They're looking to optimize your health.
Hmm.
So a regular doctor sends your blood work to the lab. Number one, they don't test near as many markers in the blood work, and when they do, the lab sends back, "Here's normal," and if you're in the normal, that's like, "Okay, you're fine." Well, that's not what these other people do. They want to optimize, so they want you in a much narrower section of, that lab work, the spectrum of what is gonna be the best, and it's a lot, and, sometimes you might be talking to that person every 6 months, depends on what you're dealing with, and everybody's different.
Yeah.
I think our health is a lifelong puzzle that we're continually working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think about, so my mom has Alzheimer's disease.
Mhm.
She was diagnosed in 2016. And I don't think there's a day that goes by that the thought doesn't cross my mind, if she knew then what I know now,
Yeah.
what would she have done?
Right.
How could things be different?
Right.
So when we talk about sort of that whole, It is a mindset thing too. I mean, there's some dismantling of beliefs, and I want to
Mhm,
get into that. But
mhm.
there's this whole mindset around that things aren't like your genes aren't destiny, right? That
Right.
yeah, and
Yes.
I mean, so in allopathic medicine, they look for evidence based, right?
Mhm,
They're always looking for studies. And
mhm.
I think at some level, it's like, well, pharmaceutical companies aren't going to be making a whole lot of money by when doctors prescribe exercise and eating healthier.
None, none. They're the ones
So,
that fund all the studies too, because they make the most money to be able to fund it, and you cannot patent a natural substance.
yeah, yeah.
So, there's no there's no money in doing that.
Yeah. So, and again, I agree with you. I think when it comes to like acute or emergent situations, things
Sure.
that aren't really lifestyle related,
Right, right.
aren't chronic, I think Western medicine is your
Mhm.
best option.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't want this to end up, getting people riled up like, oh, we're against medicine
No,
or
not at
Western
all.
medicine. No,
I
that's not that.
totally my father was a surgeon. One grandfather was an internal medicine doctor. Both grandfathers on both sides were doctors, like country doctors. That's like early 1900s, maybe late 1800s. I don't know. I have a high respect for doctors. I really do. But it's like got to find its place. Then there is a place for it, like you just said.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about the research, there's also Dr. Mary Claire Haver, who's really, as an OBGYN, has talked about how there's been so very little research on women and menopause.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so there's a lot, I think, there's this shift that's occurring, which I
Mhm.
think is ultimately going to be good for us. Although I'm always a little leery of the medicalization of things.
Oh, me too. Me
Yeah.
too. That's
Yeah.
why I like the lifestyle habit type stuff.
Yes.
Because when you start looking at things like the blue zones, for instance, which I think they're pretty interesting. There's a lot of different longevity studies I looked at, but that was one of them. It is about their lifestyle habits. It's about how their environments are set up naturally, to trigger the behaviors that lead to longevity. And so now here we are in our modern world, America or whatever, modern first world countries that, the more inventions, the more comfortable we become, and the more sedentary we become. And so we really have to work to find those ways to motivate us to have those kind of lifestyle habits, right? So how are we going to get ourselves up and walking, for instance?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So when I talk about mindset and I talk about the your genes aren't destiny, I think um so at the Functional Aging Institute, I remember they had a conference. They had
mhm,
Mark Middleton, who is the CEO of Growing Bolder. I don't know
mhm.
if you're familiar with that.
There's so
Um,
many out there. I'm not sure if I'm
yeah,
familiar with that one.
but I remember that he talked about when we talk about longevity and we talk
Mhm.
about health, that for a long time people believed that it was about genetics
Yes.
and
Yes,
that
they did.
what you did didn't really make a whole lot of difference. So the reason I talk about mindset and the belief stuff is if you believe that your genes control 90% of what's happening to you, okay, then you don't like your agency is quite small, right? The
Mhm.
ability to influence is like 10%.
Right, right, right,
How much of that is luck
right.
versus if you and I think what the research is showing more and more is no, genetics is, they have that metaphor where genes load the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Exactly, I love that.
I don't know if coming from the San Francisco Bay Area, the gun analogy is a
Oh,
little, but
coming from Oklahoma.
it's no problem, right?
Right.
So, but I will say, I mean, it's such a good metaphor,
It is, yes, it is.
and so you know just take it for that part.
Right.
But I really do think then, well, then maybe genes. especially for some things, maybe only account for 25%.
Yeah,
That means
or
or
less. That's
less.
that study of epigenetics,
Yeah.
right? Like, we can turn genes on and off, they say in that study, and but it's and the same, I've been seeing all these studies more and more lately about our belief can make or not make something happen. It's really incredible, some of the studies lately that I've seen on that, and not just now, there have been a lot.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were going through your sort of, I almost want to call it like a rediscovery,
Mhm, yeah,
would
for
that be
sure.
fair to say?
Yeah, mhm.
What were, so for someone going through it who isn't maybe as tuned in, what are some signs that you're going through that? Like if someone's,
The real s strong feeling I had was restlessness
hmm,
at that time. I just was like, I wasn't feeling the feeling I'd had maybe a few years prior and before that of just the excitement of, what I was doing that day, or things to look forward to, or just kind of my main, like, purpose stuff. It's all about the purpose piece. And this doesn't purpose doesn't have to be some big thing. It doesn't have to be like writing a book or climbing a mountain or, whatever. It can be your garden, it can be your grandchildren. It can be, whatever. It can be a multitude of things. But it was that restlessness I had that I had to kind of go through. The mastermind helped me, and a lot of, honestly, I'd been doing 10 years of marketing conferences. And when you go to a marketing conference for your business, you do a lot of personal work. It's like branding. It's like, who are you?
hmm,
What is your message? Who are you talking to? You know what I mean? You've
hmm,
probably done some of that. And really, we should all do that. So part of in my book, I have this section where there's 60 dream questions. So, like, if you're a person that is just restless or not sure, what does the next decade look like for me, or I just don't know what I'm doing right now, or anything along those lines, I recommend that you engage in those 60 dream questions. Get a journal, and you're going to answer one each day for 60 days. And some of them are, quick, can be a quick answer. Some of them take a little more thought. But going through that process, I think's really helpful.
yeah. I love that. I I want to go and like look up those questions
Yeah, yeah.
and
And
spread
they've
them.
been they've been questions that I have accumulated over probably more than 10 years, probably like 14 years,
Okay.
of just different conferences I've been to, different just personal interactions with whoever, just yeah, and I think they're all really key to figuring out who we are and where we wanna go.
Yeah. So I when I think about cognitive health,
Mhm.
brain health,
Yes.
one of the things that comes up is challenging your brain.
Mhm.
Where if you're a lifelong learner, if you
Mhm.
stay curious,
Mhm.
that goes a long way toward brain health and cognitive health.
I sure agree, yes.
And so I think knowing what your purpose is and who
Mhm.
you are is so integral to
It's
that
huge.
process.
Yes, it's huge. Mhm.
Yeah, because I listen to my dad now, who, so my mom has Alzheimer's, my dad doesn't. He's
My mom
actually,
did too.
okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, I know, it's awful.
It's awful. And I noticed for him, I mean, at this point, his world is, my purpose now is to take care of mom. That
Mhm. Okay.
that's his
Yeah.
purpose now.
That's a big one, uh-huh.
That's a big one. And yet I see him struggling with this. We tell him, well, if you exercise, it can help. It
Mhm.
will certainly help him too, right? But
Sure.
it can help. It can still maybe help mom to slow it down a little bit. Like you still have a little bit of power over what happens.
Mhm.
And
he struggles with that. Like for him, it's just like you get older and there's decline.
Right.
That's
They
the
just
mindset
accept
stuff.
it. Yeah. Mhm.
So I think maybe this would be a good place to actually get into what some of the biggest myths are about aging and longevity.
Well, I think the biggest one is that it's too late. It's too late for me to get healthier. It's too late for me to find a new purpose. I mean, and those are just all straight up myths. Um, in the book, I list a bunch of examples of people who have done their major thing in their life,
Mm,
like in that last third of their life. Some of them are 95 when they did it, but like I'm going to say 60 to 90, 95, this when these people did, the big thing that was in their life. I mean, Laura Ingalls Wilder, remember who she was? And
sure.
she, I think her daughter said, "Mom, why don't you just write down, your experiences of growing up in the cabin and all of that stuff?" And that was later in her life. But there's people that started businesses, that all kinds of things. So it is absolutely not too late. And in fact, I think it's the right time because we've lived this life. We have this wisdom and this life experience that we didn't have before. So and we have a little bit more room in our brain to think because maybe now we are an empty nester. And we all spent the last 2 or 3 decades just kind of working our tails off, right? Raising kids, maybe we were in a career, maybe both at the same time. Just it was a lot of hard work. And there, almost to the point of just in survival mode a lot of the time. And so I think this is an amazing time to be able to, engage in some of those new things. So and it's not too late to get healthy. And my favorite person to follow on Instagram is a lady. Her Instagram handle is Train with Joan. Have you
Mm,
know about her?
mm-mm, mm-mm.
She she she's like a grandma type. I mean, and I think she's 79 now, and she started on her path to health at 70. Her daughter is a health coach, and so I don't know how long she's had her Instagram page, maybe since she was maybe 72 or something like that. She's just there's millions of followers on there, and she is just went from overweight and sick and taking lots of medications to now I mean, for 79, she's muscular, she's fit, she eats well, and she's teaching you how to do that. So, it's never too late. I remember at 55, I that was when I got into exercising regularly because I think I had a little mini freak out at 55, before my 60-year-old freak out. And I thought, "Oh my gosh, is it too late?" I haven't exercised regularly. Like have sporadic, didn't do anything for 6 months, and now I'm going to work real hard for 2 weeks, and then not anything for another year, and it was kind of like that.
Yeah.
'Cause I was raising those kids and, just busy, busy, and so finally at 55, I think we all have a threshold, and we all and it's different for everybody, and we get to that point where like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot go a second further with what I have been doing here." So I was like I made an appointment at the gym. I started out going twice a week, and I just in my mind, I had to say, I don't care if the kids eat cereal and milk, if they don't get educated, if they wear old dirty clothes. Now they didn't, but I kinda had to say it that way in my mind, but I have to go to these workouts. Like, everything in my life has to work around these workouts. And, then I added a 3rd day and a 4th and a 5th and over time, and it's still that way. I mean, that's like my prime thing each day, and then I have to work everything else around that. And it took me a while to get to that point, right? But it wasn't too late, and even at 65, it wouldn't be too late. And again, like Joan is, in her late 70s now, so it's never too late, and that is a big myth. It's never too late for the physical part. It's never too late for the purpose part. You know, this is a great time in life.
Yeah. I love that. So I I also think that with exercise, like if part of aging is the sort of new aches and pains that
Mm,
come up and not
yeah.
being able to, move as comfortably as before. So I do think when we talk about like addressing root causes, if you have
Yes,
aches and pains, let's find out what's going on
for sure.
because just that feeling alone, I think can make you feel old. And I put old in quotes.
Mhm.
Whereas when you're able to move pain free, when you have that energy, then I think that desire to what is next? What am I
Yes,
going to do with my life?
yes,
So that health part is that foundation
it
to
really
then,
is.
right? Yeah.
And that's why I put body work. So the framework is body work, then brain work, then world work. Like, if we don't feel physically good or good enough to do what we want to do mentally or in our world, our outer world, it really does start there with feeling good, being able to be mobile, you know. Yeah.
So actually, let's talk about your framework
Okay.
because you just mentioned it. So let's back up a little bit
Okay.
and help folks understand like how you approach this in your book and
Okay.
in your programs.
So it was looking at all these longevity studies, the blue zones, but other ones, big Harvard studies, and even cancer studies, but in terms of longevity, and what they had in common and what the key things were in terms of lifestyle habits. And so the framework is called the self perpetuating circle of purpose. And it's got 3 pillars: body work, brain work, and world work, and they just kind of all continuously lead to each other. The better we feel, the more we want to do things mentally and then in our outer world, and then that just kind of perpetuates, "Oh, but" and we wanna keep feeling good to keep doing that, right? So and then under each of those 3 pillars are the big 5. And so I thought, my background was as a TV producer and also as a homeschool mother. So in both of those worlds, I had to really plan and organize and to be able to execute, right? And so I thought, I can spit out all this information and studies and this and that, but if there is not a plan for people to literally engage in and move the needle forward in their life, then what's the point, right? So there is a plan. So the book leads to the 60-day dare. So under each of these 3 pillars are the big 5, like I said. So for instance, under body work is I call it eat, drink, move, sleep, and breathe. Now, I'll go into detail more about each of those, but you might pick one of those out of that category to do for 60 days. And I'm all about baby steps because if we don't do it in baby steps, it's not going to be solidified. We're trying to create new habits, not only physical, but mental too, which are habits, right? How we think becomes our reality, our words, then our reality, right? But for
Our
instance,
thoughts are habits too.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. If you picked eat, for instance, in our last 60-day dare, I'm going to eat 30 grams. I have to be very specific, smart goals. I am going to eat 30 grams of protein before I eat anything else each day. And
Mm.
I've been doing that now I'm on my second 60-day dare of that. And it's fantastic. I really feel like it's making a difference in when I do this with the strength training, because that
Mhm.
is for us, for our age, this is key. Protein and muscle building, they call muscle the organ of longevity. Our muscles, we have to keep them strong and developed. And we can do that. It's never too late to do that, to make our muscles stronger.
And
Just,
can I add to that?
yeah,
Leg strength and cognitive health,
yes,
there's a lot of association there too.
I believe it.
Specifically, I think part of it might be that it's big muscles. I think there's more research that needs to go into it, but the bigger muscles, I wouldn't be surprised if there's probably um, a reduced chance of falling,
Oh, for sure. For
right?
sure.
And you're able to keep moving if you
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
strong lower body. So,
Yes. They say people that fall and break their hip, they die because when they're older, because unless they're able to get back up and get retrained and get that healed, and a lot of them don't because it just, hurts.
Mhm.
And so, yes, that muscle strength is key. So, and then drinking has to do with how much water you drinking every day. People, but there's like some high percentage of ER visits are solved with hydration. It's over 50%. I forget what the stat is, but that's huge. Drinking enough water. You just got to keep everything supple and wet inside, right? Not all dried out and hardened. And then move would be exercise, and for us at this, second half of life, it's really, to me, it's strength training and walking. I mean, and flexibility, those are the three key things. But, and then sleep, sleep is number one, everything for recovery, for getting better, for healing. I love my Aura ring. Have you tried an Aura ring yet? Yeah, I love it. It's first thing I look at every day. Um, and then breathing, deep breathing sessions, and that's a real important thing that people are like, really breathing? Yeah, yeah, it is. Um, and then brain work is, I would call it write, read, clear, meditate, and create. So writing would be like journaling, and you're going to pick, what do I think I need, right? So ideally, you're picking one thing from each category. Maybe you've got some grief, some trauma, something like that you just need to write about it. Just get your emotions out of your body and on paper. Maybe it's just every day, like maybe you have a stressful life, and every day you've got a lot in your brain when you wake up, and you just need to get it out on paper. Just what you need to focus on, what you need to do, just out of the brain onto the paper. It's amazing how we can feel so much better. Maybe you need to go on to counseling too, if it's like needing therapy or trauma, grief, that type stuff. And, we all heal on things at like another level. Like we may have talked about it when we were 30 or 40. Maybe we need to talk about it again at 50 or 60, right? It's a constant process. Read would be anything nonfiction that's uplifting. I think we are the five people that we are surrounding us, whether that's actual people or what we're listening to or what we're reading or what we're watching. So is it uplifting?
Why
I
nonfiction?
Because it's going to improve you in some way. That
Okay.
that is the goal, improving you, whether it's in your business or whether it's personally in some way, just uplifting you. And then in the clear would be either decluttering your house, like a 15-minute session decluttering, or detoxing your house. So we got to get the chemicals out, right? Usually they're in the laundry room, the bathroom, and under the kitchen sink. So what are we cleaning our houses with, right? We want to not have chemicals because they go into our skin, into our bloodstream, and become endocrine disruptors, which can just cause a multitude of problems, right? When we're trying to be healthy. So,
Yeah.
or you could do a decluttering. I did that in one of the 60-day dares, and it was so great. I had to do 15 minutes somewhere. Sometimes it went on for an hour or two. Other times I just had the timer for 15 minutes, and like this top drawer of my desk, I I just tolerated it for 2 years, and finally I did it, and it's beautiful now. So that physical clutter can mentally clutter our minds, right? Just makes it harder to think clearly. And then meditate could be meditation, prayer, or affirmations, like a 10-minute session every day. And then create is like an art making. I love to do needlepoint. It's kind of like my reward at the end of the day. But some kind of just creative, de-stressing outlet. So like a 30-minute session every day lowers cortisol. There's studies that lowers, that stress hormone cortisol. So those are the brain work. And then the world work is all about your purpose and your relationships. So the big five, the first one I call dream. And those are those dream questions, 60 questions. You'd answer one every day in a journal. If you're sort of like, I'm not sure what my purpose is, I feel restless, that would be a great thing to do. The second one is engage. So that's engaging in relationships. And, again, for this age, There's a lot of loneliness, and this is a huge number one factor probably in longevity are our relationships, and of course, I mean good ones. I mean, ones that lift us up. And so, we're dealing with, possibly being a widow or divorced or kids are all out of the house or, maybe you're an introvert on top of all that. So this might be a real important one that maybe each week and on the world work ones you can rotate some of these during the week, but you want
Okay.
to do something at least every week, something every day, but they can change. So now if you did the dream questions, you'd do those every day, but engage maybe twice a week. You'd like text or call a friend and say, "Hey, you want to meet for coffee?" Or "You want to go to the bookstore with me?" Or do you want, or maybe you FaceTime your brother that lives across the country that you never talk to, right? You just kind of trying to build the relationships. And it takes effort, especially in our internet age and
Mm.
our phone age, right? Then gather would be the third one. That goes to spiritual communities. So that was a big factor in longevity was these people were all part of a spiritual community of some sort. So maybe you're going to church each week, or maybe you're in a small group of some sort, or even a one-on-one, even their spiritual counselors. So just something where you're engaging in that kind of um, conversation. And then help would be the fourth one. That would be anything volunteering. Lots of people find their purpose in volunteering. There's so many options out there and so much need. So that's pretty cool. And then the last one I call act. And that would just be if you do know your purpose, that you work on it for like an hour a day, at least. That's assuming you got a lot of other things to do. Could work on it more than that if you wanted. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I think I want to add to that whole engaging and the
Hmm.
social connection because that is so important for brain health
Yes.
and the importance that it's a quality, like it's a good relationship, a
Yes.
healthy relationship. Because the ones that aren't healthy does actually increase the chronic stress levels,
Oh,
which
yes.
are horrible for our brain. So
Right. Right.
whether it's like boundary work that
Yes.
we need to do, people pleasing stuff, or if there's trauma.
Yes.
So you had mentioned earlier this whole, you know, maybe to go see a therapist or
Mhm.
counselor, because even if you did the work from your childhood when you were in your 20s or 30s, if you're in your 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
60s, maybe some new stuff is coming up
Right,
now.
right, and it's getting to things at maybe a deeper level because 'cause you're older, you're wiser. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. If
Mhm.
you've had kids yourself,
Oh, right,
all of
that
those
changes
things.
everything.
So I think one of the things that I keep hearing that I really want to maybe unpack a little bit more is there's there seems to be this shift in mindset that needs to happen where you see this phase of life as a new beginning. So, in traditional Chinese medicine,
Mhm.
menopause is actually referred to as the second spring, which
Mm,
totally ties into all
I
the
love it.
stuff you've been talking about.
Yes, yes.
And so I am wondering from your work, what are some things that people can do to help them shift that mindset?
Well, I think when we read about people that have, that helps, and it is called I would call it a paradigm shift. You really have to go from thinking, "Oh, this is the beginning of the end," which I remember before I decided to write the book, my girlfriend that I'd known since we were 6, we were both turning 60 that same year, and I was with her, and I was with some of her friends, and we were all out, and I had turned 60, and she was about to turn 60, and she was like, "Well, I hear 60 is the gateway to old age," and I was just like, "No, I don't want that," And so it so many things are a paradigm shift, and that is one, and we need to have paradigm shifts. Going from you know, allopathic medicine to natural health was a paradigm shift. Realizing, well, that could work, right? And seeing evidence of it. But I think so. I think when we see other people doing it, that's really helpful for us to go, okay, if they could do it, I could do it. And it's all on different levels. It's all on just the level that where we are, we can make little changes. But again, I'm all about baby steps, you know. You got to set yourself up for success, but not thinking you can change so much within this 60-day period that you're going to fail at it because it's too much. Right? It's just got to be these little new habits that we are putting into place each day.
Yeah. The brain doesn't like too much change. It
No, no.
Yeah. So anything that's um where you really sort of see it as very doable, and
Mhm.
then I think when you see yourself doing it,
Mhm.
your self-efficacy goes up, your confidence goes up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's also part of the setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when I was doing this, in the last 60-day dare, I had added it's like about an 8-minute deep breathing session. Wim Hof, you've heard of Wim Hof?
Mhm.
Have you? So it's his how he does it. And,
Actually, so for people who don't know, why don't you explain
yes,
a little
well,
bit more?
Wim Hof, oh my gosh, he's got, like, Guinness Book of World Records. You can look him up, but he's got an app for this, but he is um, how would I just he's the guy that, like, ran barefoot up the Himalayan mountains and, you know, broke records, and he's in his 70s now. He has been able to, like, they've studied him. I mean, he's gone to universities, they've hooked him up to all the machines, injected him with poisons, and his body, he was able to, like, mentally expel them and not get sick. Like, what he's done's been amazing, but he's very much into deep breathing, yoga, and all different exercises and stuff. He's got a book out. You can read his book. But, I was adding that, and so sometimes I did it in the I wanted to do it in the morning because it really kinda ignites all your body systems to just sort of take on the day. But it was turning out that sometimes I did it in the afternoon, and sometimes I totally forgot and didn't do it till 10 o'clock at night. So finally, I decided to add it. They call this habit stacking, to add it to another habit that I loved, which was drinking my coffee in the morning. And so I drink like 2 half cups. And so I put it in between those two. And I couldn't have my second cup until I had done the breathing session. And so now that's what I do. It's become a habit, and it's great because I'm doing it during a time that I really enjoyed the other thing I was doing. And like that would be a little tip, a little help on how to add something good.
Yeah. I mean, with habit formation, in the beginning, there usually is a very conscious effort that needs to be, you have to be intentional,
Yes, you do.
um, as you're basically creating new pathways in your
Yes.
brain. So
Exactly.
you are truly in learning mode at that point.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
just understand that the way our brains work, that for habit formation, we need that to be patient. It doesn't
We
just,
do well, as Dr. Caroline Leaf says, it takes at least 60 days to form a new habit, which what that is a long-term memory that we have now formed if we do it for 60 days. It could take up to 8 months, so you might do several 60-day periods, but it's at least 60 days and we can see that on the nerve cells in the brain. We can see the formation. It looks like a little umbrella when it's finally formed. It's pretty cool, on the dendritic spines of the nerve cells, under the microscope. So it's actually, there's actually something forming in the brain.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So you've kind of touched on your 60-day challenge and stuff like that. Let's unpack that. Like, so what does it look like? And if people want to sign up for it, what's the first step?
Yeah, well, there's a planner that also goes with the book. So I would, get the book, read the book, but there's a planner for the 60-day dare. So you could just get the planner. I would advise you to get some friends to do it with you because I think accountability is really important. You can also go to my website and click on 60-day dare, and we have a program where you can do it with me too. you're going to assess your life. There's some just quick little assessments. Like there's a 14 point, different parts of your life. What would you give it? A 1 to 10? What number would you give it? Right. And so the areas that are lower are probably the ones you want to work on. And so then you would look at those, big five under each of those categories and just decide what do I want to do for 60 days? Again, don't pick too many things. Be very specific. You're not going to say I want to exercise every day. No, you're going to say, I'm going to exercise for 30 minutes every day. These 3 days, I'm going to do strength training. These 3 days, I'm going to walk. This day, I'm going to do yoga flexibility stretches or whatever it is, but be very specific because you got to know if you did it or not. Right. If you're too vague, you can go, well, I sort of did it. I don't know. Or if you're drinking, not drinking enough water, you're going to drink at least half your body weight in ounces of water per day. So you're very specific in what you're going to do for 60 days. And so then you just, start your 60-day dare, whether it's with us online or with your friends using the planner, or maybe you have some kind of digital app that you like.
I love the idea of either working with you or with your friends too.
Yeah.
So much research has really shown that the support as well as the additional accountability
Oh, it's huge.
makes a huge difference. And
Absolutely.
we were talking about how important it is, social connection. So if you're
Yes.
doing it with your friends, it's like you get to check off two boxes at the same
Right,
time.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yes,
Yeah.
that two birds with one stone, I'm all about that. How can I get 2 or 3 things done at the same time?
Well, I think the other thing I love as we're talking is how much overlap you and I actually have in
Yes,
terms of our
we do.
approaches.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, whether we're talking about, like I used to focus on weight loss, and now I'm all about brain health, it's all connected. It
Yes,
really, at the end of the day, we're talking about how to create this happy, healthy, joyful life, one with purpose, one with meaning.
yes.
And I love that, you talked about how it's never too late.
Mhm,
And I think there's a lot around that whole if you feel good, if your body feels good, like you have
mhm.
that energy and the desire
Right.
also. So
Yes.
it is all connected. There's
Mhm.
so much interdependence. Um, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you think for introducing my audience to you that
Mhm.
would be good for us to talk about that I haven't asked you about?
I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, but that concept of environment triggering behavior,
Mhm.
like it's important. I think we talked about that a little bit, but just to go a little further on that, just setting your life up, setting your home up. I don't know if you can see that I have a cushion back here on the floor. It's a floor cushion. That's just one example of, you know, if it's out, it's sitting at my coffee table. I'll sit in that chair and just do some stuff, but I'll also sit on that cushion if it's there. And so just that, that's what they do in Japan. They're sitting on floor cushions to eat. Their mattresses are on the floor, so they're getting up and getting down, getting up and getting down, and that's helping with our mobility and, right, our ability to just get up and get down. Same thing with, like, having your shoes out to trigger you to put them on, to go walk down the street and go for your walk. If they're hidden in the closet, you're not gonna see them, you're not gonna do it. Or having your fresh fruits and vegetables at eye level when you open the fridge. Just so those setting up our environment, like right here when I walk into my office here, I have a crystal bowl with all my little baggies of supplements. So I'll do 30 days at a time. And I see them, they're sitting there. I grab one when I walk in, so I'll take it, right? So I'll remember to take it. So just doing those things to set up our environment to trigger the behavior we want, that is a huge help in these new habits we want to develop.
Yeah. I like to say structure drives behavior.
Okay.
And so when you talk about environment, that's part of the structure.
For
I,
sure.
I
Yeah.
think of it in those terms.
Hmm.
And there's another thing I like to say, which is focus on what you can control.
Yes.
And so there are things about our environment that we obviously can't
Right.
control,
Hmm.
but all the things that you talked about are things that we can
Right.
control.
Yeah, there's a lot we can control.
And I actually think in a lot of ways, with environment too, it's like once you set it up, it's there to continually
Right.
support you,
Exactly.
which in a lot of ways it's like a one and done.
Yeah, it
So
is. It is. Certain
so
things you might need to maintain, but yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So it's like how often do you have to paint your walls?
Right. Right,
Right.
exactly.
Right. As opposed to eating healthy.
Yes.
They're very
Yes.
different in
Right.
nature. Yeah.
Like, eat
So
and I like having a smaller plate. Just have a small plate versus a big plate. Yeah, I
yeah.
think that, yeah, helps you eat less.
Yeah. Well, and plates have gotten bigger over
If
time.
that they have.
Yeah. So it would, portion sizes have changed over
Uh-huh.
time.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So having I think they said something like plates have gone from being like 8 inches or 10 inches to 12 inches. Like they've actually gotten
Uh-huh.
bigger.
I believe it.
So,
I
so,
believe it.
there's actually another little trick. A white plate versus like a lighter plate versus a darker plate. So
Well,
from my weight loss coaching,
red makes you hungry, and so that's why a lot of restaurants, they'll have red booths or red, I don't know, red whatever. It makes you hungry, so don't get
yeah.
red plates.
Red and orange. I think
Yeah,
orange too. Yeah.
I
So,
bet.
well, just look at the fast food chains and think
Yes,
about what colors they're using.
right, that's a good point. Mhm.
All right. So, okay, if people want to connect with you, what is the best way to do it?
Well, I'm usually on Instagram and Facebook. My full name, Allison McCune Davis, will get you there. Send me a message if you'd like. Love to talk. And then my website is also my full name dot
Okay.
com. If you
Okay.
go to slash free, you can get a downloadable PDF document of my favorite supplements and practices that I use to keep my immune system boosted. So that's something they could get.
Okay. So, for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a little QR code right here so you can scan that and it'll take you directly to her slash free offer. All right. And
Well,
if for folks on YouTube, if you're watching this and this was helpful, I would love for you to hit that like button and subscribe. And if you want to get notified every time, so this podcast comes out once a week. So if you want to get notified, hit that bell too. And definitely go and follow Allison on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today.
thank you for having me.
So, I have a tradition of ending every podcast with a quote. And as my guest, I would love for you to, if you have a favorite quote, something that inspires you that you would like to share with folks, maybe talk a little bit about what it is if you
Mhm.
want to, and then take us out with it.
Sure. Probably my favorite quote right now, and really it's key in what I'm doing, is our future is hidden in our daily routine. And that's by Mike Murdoch. But it I love that because I think we really have to say to ourselves, what kind of person do I want to be a year from now or 5 years from now? And are the things I'm doing in my daily life going to get me there? Because it's so easy to think, well, I'll do that later. I'll do that down the road. But if we don't just start creating our day with those key little habits that we're going to build over time, baby step by baby step, it's not going to happen. So I love that. Our future is hidden in our daily routine.